All right, welcome back to the Digital Social Hour. I'm your host, Sean Kelly, along with my co-host, Wayne Lewis.
What up, what up?
And our guest today, Edmund Coutan. How we doing?
Doing great. Blessed and highly favored. How are you guys?
Fresh, man.
Good, man. You pull up on the jet today or what?
I live in Vegas, so
Okay.
I was just able to take my orange Chrysler.
All right.
Okay.
Not bad. So
I
you
came
got
in
the,
here fresh. Came in here fresh.
Came in here with the squad.
Yeah, everybody came in here fresh. Smelling good, looking good, feeling good.
Hell yeah. And you got is that the Patek?
5980, yes sir.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
You get that retail or secondary?
I wish, but actually I feel like it's a little bit cooler of a story. I got it from my watch mentor.
Okay.
He's got about a $25 million watch collection.
Wow.
So wait, you have a watch mentor?
Yes, sir.
That's actually a thing.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it is at least for me.
Wow. So what actually made you get a watch mentor? Let's start there.
So it was the grand opening of what's that restaurant at Resorts World?
Oh, Carver.
No, it's actually it was originated in L.A. Now they opened up at Resorts World.
Oh, the pizza spot?
No, and they have really good alcohol. Their alcohol is like pretty much wholesale.
Is it
Wally's.
Oh, Wally's.
Wally's,
Yeah. Were you there last night?
No. We were at Barry's.
Oh, Barry's. Okay.
So grand opening of Wally's, I got invited. You know, a lot of the ownership is tied in with different businesses, and this Asian dude's there, and he compliments me on my green face Daytona, also known as a John Mayer.
Right, really.
And we start talking watches, and he starts pulling up his phone. He was rocking a nice Richard Mille, which 99% of the time when someone's rocking a Richard Mille, it's fake.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They only make like what 1,500 or something of certain.
They make
pieces.
5,000 Richard Milles a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you have to understand, you've got all these. I mean, in Vegas, everybody's a millionaire
Right.
until
Allegedly.
until the tab comes.
Can you spot a fake Richard Mille if you saw one?
Very few people can.
Yeah.
To be absolutely sure, you would have to, hold the
it.
watch.
Right.
But aren't jewelers? So jewelers are selling fake Richard Milles.
I'm not gonna say anything like that.
They getting them
on
from somewhere.
air. I would never buy an RM
Right.
without box and papers,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
And
Most important.
I only buy watches with box and papers.
Absolutely.
amen to that.
Yeah.
That's a very smart thing, because if you don't, more than likely it's either fake or stolen.
Yeah.
Or it's considered a naked watch.
Mhm.
And then if you ever needed to get it serviced, it could be confiscated, right?
Right.
Because Rolex or
Yeah.
whatever, AP, Audemars Piguet or Patek Philippe will just take it if it's stolen.
I love watches, man. I could talk about them all day. What are your why'd you get into watches, actually? Was it as an investment or just as a casual, I want to wear these?
He's a fly dude. The watch set it off.
Yeah, I mean, my dream watch growing up was a Breitling, your good old Navitimer. And
Bulky. big.
once you finally achieve that, you kind of have your sight on a Rolex, the most recognizable brand and actually the most valuable brand in the world.
Right.
And, it's a little bit of a status symbol. But once you are done with the stainless steel sub or GMT, which, the Valet in Europe has,
Yeah.
you're going to move on to AP and Patek. And
Right.
ultimately, I'm never going to be defined by a watch. But what I would tell any young man out there or young lady is that it's a great savings account on the wrist. And it's actually one of the most appreciating assets we've seen over the last 15 years, actually over real estate and, other investments. We've seen the watch market absolutely blow up thanks to crypto.
Right.
And we see it pretty tied.
Especially during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
The watches were shooting
they
up like
shot
crazy.
up, man.
I mean, I got offered $385 for this watch.
Wow.
When it was probably worth $425, and now today, since you've seen crypto plummet, this watch, might be worth $200.
Which is still a lot.
Yeah, that's still 200,000. Yeah,
Right. I mean, it's all relative.
Right.
If you look at it, it's 100% loss. Now, for any young man out there, you're looking at getting your first watch. You will be taken a lot more seriously in different rooms, and you obviously have something on the wrist. You can't rent it. You have to buy it. And understand, if you put your money in stainless steel Rolex, it is very, very safe, and it'll appreciate every year at a higher rate than real estate. I bought my first house in 2014 for $390,000 in Portland, Oregon.
Right.
That was a very big deal. And I also bought my first stainless steel sub that year. And a stainless steel sub is probably the most recognizable Rolex in the world.
Submariner, yeah.
And the special forces used to actually wear them back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, you can swim in those, right?
What?
Of course.
Yeah.
And the reason the special forces wore that watch is because not only is it an incredible watch, it's considered a utility watch, but it also looks good with a suit if it's the only watch you have.
Right.
But also in a second or third world country, if they needed to barter or trade right then and there on the spot, they could take their watch off and get whatever they needed.
Wow. See, I didn't know that.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Facts.
So let's dive into the solar stuff, because that's how you made money to buy all these watches. So what was your solar journey like?
Really quickly on buying my first house and my first watch, I ended up selling that house not too long ago, and I bought it for $390 and I sold it for $470. So you can do the comparison differences. Obviously,
Yeah.
I paid a ton of interest because I got the loan at 4% interest,
Right.
Yeah.
and then after the fees with the real estate agent and closing, I walked away with like 35 or 40 grand. I don't even remember. That watch I bought for $7,300, and I needed money when I got started in solar because I was knocking doors, I was sleeping out of my car, I was sleeping in hotel rooms that were $60, sometimes with bed bugs, and I ended up
Damn.
selling that watch for $14,500,
I was gonna say
which
13.
is 100% over what I paid for
yeah.
it
Wow.
in order to be able to keep going in solar. So I absolutely love watches. Actually, right now I'm in the process of starting another business endeavor, and I'm self-funding it. And in order to come up with some of the money, I've had to go into my watch collection and look at a few pieces that I may be willing to part with in order to make an investment. And I don't know too much, but you're involved in crypto and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And of course, a lot of people have done very well
Yeah, right.
with crypto, such as yourself.
That's how I met him through
Absolutely.
crypto.
Nice.
Yeah.
I personally have not done well with crypto, but I do have a friend. In 2012, he told me to put $10,000 into Bitcoin, and I was on the toilet taking a shit, and I had just lost 10 grand here, 10 grand there, and
You were like,
in
nah.
2017, I think Bitcoin shot up to like 18,000.
Yeah. 20K, yeah.
He cashed out 2,000 coins
Holy.
at 18 and got 36 million and still had 8,000 coins. I was just on the phone with him yesterday. We share the same birthdays. He's from Guatemala. He's got like 7 Ferraris.
That's a lot of
out
money
there.
over there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But one thing I love about watches versus crypto, for example, because I put $500,000 into crypto in November of 2021. Maybe not the
Ooh.
best timing.
Peak.
But one thing I do love, and I've done okay. I've got different things, but the watch you get to hold, right? The watch you get to have in your safe. The watch you could easily take out and sell that day. Not saying that you can't do that with crypto, but when you give somebody money for an investment, whether it's an altcoin or whatever, that money's gone. You don't see it, and there's a lot of trust involved. The watch, unlike a home or anything else, you get to hold, and it's easy to trade and barter with. So I love that. Back to you.
Yeah, no, I was curious about your solar journey because I have a couple friends in that industry just dominating. So what was it like from you starting off door to door and now owning your own solar company?
So I actually don't own a solar company. Contrary to popular belief, I'm just a rep.
Oh, okay.
Damn, how big of a rep are you?
Well,
Like, how big?
in a 1099 position, you are somewhat fortunate to be able to eat what you kill, and so you could say I'm the CEO of my own business, right?
But you still have a team, right? You still have a team. of
Yeah,
people
so
that
I
work
was
together.
fortunate enough to be able to build a team, and I do make overrides, and I used to have a little bit of profit sharing off of the team I built.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Yeah, so my first year in solar was not glamorous or easy by any means. I was in Portland, Oregon at the time, and
What year was that when you
that was-
first started?
so when I looked at solar, it was 2018. I was 30 years old. I was in Portland, Oregon, and I was in the NFL club. No friends left, no funds left. I was the laughing stock of my town, and I was 30 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I slept on my buddy's couch in low-income housing. I woke up and I would play Call of Duty, and
Dang.
then
Jeez.
I'd start drinking, and I decided to start training for my first amateur fight. So I like
Boxing? or
just
MMA?
jiu-jitsu
Is it?
and
Okay.
Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I was just gonna go in the cage, and
Fuck
I
it.
had a death wish.
Yeah, yeah.
But I found out about solar in November of 2018, and
Mhm.
there's a million ways to make $1 million in America, but it felt really good. Like as
Right.
far as how beneficial it is for the homeowner, helping the planet, and then getting paid handsomely, I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you were going door to door at first.
So yeah, I went door to door. I was 30 years old, and I was able to show proficiency like right off the bat, above average ability.
As far as from sales.
As far as like communicating
like,
effectively with a homeowner and being able to get a sale.
Now, was that natural, or is it something that you actually practiced? Like, what was your ritual every morning?
Yeah, well, you know, I was born and raised in Paris, France, and I came to America when I was 12.
Yeah.
Right.
So I spoke French, and then my grandmother's from from Spain, so I spoke Spanish before I ever spoke any English. And I had it, you know, I didn't know how to speak English at 12. I didn't know how to read and write. I had an accent. It was rough. So there's nothing in my life that's really come naturally, and I don't really believe in natural or talent. I believe in hard work. I think work is a great separator. So as far as my in-home experience goes, I have sold gutters. I've tried windows. I've tried roofing. I've tried pavers.
So you were a salesman just off the rip. Yeah.
Jack of all trades, master of none would have described me very well.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of your quotes saw was a little controversial. You said women are more coachable than men.
Wow, where did you hear that?
I might have seen a video or two.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of that, and you know, I've created 11 millionaires in the solar industry.
How many women?
Actually, that's not necessarily true. I've helped 11 people have a 6-figure month, and some of them, you know, when you make a lot of money, which what people think a lot of money is, the more money you make, the more your ego climbs for the most part, right? EGO, edging God out.
They become harder to coach too.
And so a lot of people have moved on to greener pastures and have stopped making $100,000 or $150,000 a month since. But yeah, I haven't actually helped a woman make a 6-figure income in solar, but outside of solar, just through very little coaching and mentoring, if you would want to call it that. I don't consider. I believe those that teach, you know, can't do, or those that can't do teach. So I don't want to be considered that at all. But women are a little bit more open to recommendations. They have a little bit less of an ego, in my opinion, from from my experience.
Right.
And actually, there's a perfect example of a young lady who I met at Rhino.
Spearman Rhino, the strip club?
Yeah, it was her first night.
Okay.
She was 24 years old. And, well, you know, I got to know her later that night. And 3 months later, she asked me for a gig in solar. And I let her know, like I do most young ladies, that solar's pretty tough.
Right.
It's deregulated, and the industry really isn't far enough along the road for me to be able to recommend it to someone.
Right.
And I highly recommend finding another sales gig, right? Sales is the highest paid, hardest working profession on earth, and it is the lowest paid, easiest working profession on earth. And women have a massive advantage in sales, period.
Because sex sells, but you have to be cut from a certain cloth, especially doing door-to-door sales.
Well, a lot of beautiful women also need to understand that they can marry into more in a second than they can make in a lifetime. So what I've noticed, I actually don't hire women for the most part, and the reason why is because without exception, you know, I've never touched my downline. I keep it very professional, and without exception, they've always ended up falling in love with the next highest income earner. And then they go off and start, you know, A&D. Of course, yeah.
Within your company?
Well, people meet each other at the workplace, right? Whoever you work with the most is whoever you familiarize yourself with the most, is whoever you fall in love with. It happens in corporate America all the time. Long story short, with this young lady, today she makes $120,000 a month in insurance and climbing. What I think is insane is I haven't given her a fraction of the time and attention and coaching and mentoring that I give my guys in solar, right? But she's been able to implement a little bit from afar and really program herself and her identity to go from choosing to dance to actually getting into sales, dressing professionally, paying attention, and freaking change her life, change her family's life.
I think she probably, in a lot of different aspects, probably admired you and looked up to you. So, I mean...
Yeah, whatever it is that got her to, you know, have the strength and the courage to do it, regardless of her background and you know, her environment, it's pretty remarkable.
That's solid. That's dope.
So you try to separate business and personal life, so you wouldn't date a coworker?
Never. It would be the most unprofessional thing you could do. And I tell my guys all the time, don't fuck your downline.
Don't bring dick
I
to
tell
work.
them if it has, apricotsolar.com email, don't look at it, don't touch it. Frankly, if a situation happens, which they do, right, because of team nights or different things and people are drinking, I'm always going to side with the young lady.
Really?
I mean, you should be smart enough not to put yourself into that situation, young man. We've talked about it. There's been several warnings, and you done fucked up, sonny boy.
So if you find out about it, what happens? You let them go?
Wheezy out.
Probably.
And it's funny because talk is cheap, right? Actions speak louder than words, and people want to test you. I had a young man who was making $50,000 a month, and he got multiple warnings, and I shared with him his future, right? His dream car, the orange McLaren, and making $100,000 a month and making $100,000 a week, but you got to be able to stay away from the women in the company. There's so many of them out there waiting for you. You don't have to use your influence that you have in this company to, from stage or whatever to do that. And a lot of guys don't think they're going to get fired because they make so much money. They have such a team, so much influence. But for me, it's never been about the money. And it's, businesses are just people. And unfortunately or fortunately, my code of honor is company first, mission second, and individual third. So
how important is reading to you, like as far as pouring into yourself and educating yourself from like a betterment standpoint, whether it's sales books, self-improvement, or is like what's your take on that, like daily? Like what do you look at yourself and tell yourself daily? What do you listen to? What do you read every day? Like what's your thing every day? Like what makes you who you are? That's definitely a tricky one. Why?
Well, I think all of us, when we first get introduced to personal development, you kind of fall in love with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you guys have dove into NLP. For those of you who don't know, neuro-linguistic programming. And for me, I truly believe an hour in the field beats 40 hours in the classroom, right? A lot of the stuff you're going to read in books is going to go right over your head if you haven't developed yourself to a certain point.
Absolutely.
So for me, the perfect balance would be 90% productive activity and 10% personal development. What I've found is a lot of people like to do 90% personal development and 10% productive activity.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, knowledge, as incredible as it is useless unless it's applied.
Yeah, it's only power when it's applied. Other than that, it's just useless.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why I tell people there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you've got to decide what's going to motivate you and move you into action. Obviously, if you look at my social media, I look like a superficial asshole that you would probably never want to.
Not really. You look like, you just look like you fly.
You guys might be able to read past the bullshit. But to the average 99%er, I look like you know.
I see you're doing it for show.
Right.
I can see that.
And so I would tell any young man out there, if your dream is a gold rollie or a Lambo or something superficial, don't be embarrassed about that. You don't have to hide that, and there's nothing wrong with that because the work you will put in and the person you will have to become to treat yourself to that, which I would call putting your own mask on before, paying off your parents' home, that work is what's going to help you become financially free. But if you're not motivated for something that's immediate, because nowadays you follow guys like Sean or anybody that's documented, you're 90 days out, 9 months out, 9 years out. It's very achievable, right? Whatever your goal is, there's somebody who's done it and who can lead you in the right direction. But you got to find what motivates you. Maybe you say you want to retire your parents. You say you want to buy them a house.
Sound good.
But fuck, if that doesn't get you out of bed at 6 a.m, if you can't jump out like you're possessed for that, well, let's reduce the goal to like a little Rolex or something.
Micro goals.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah. So what advice would you give a person that, like, how do you go from a bad salesperson to a good salesperson? How do you groom that guy? Meaning he has potential, but he's bad at it. Yeah. How do you make him the guy? Have you ever made that guy? Like, to where you're damn near staring at yourself.
I can't want it for you more than you want it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so you got to kind of meet people where they're at.
But as a coach, as a mentor, you meet people where they're at, but you coach them up.
You only have so much time, so you got to justify your time and who you spend it with.
Gotcha.
You know, if you're truly serious, not curious about changing the quality of your life, you've got to be able to humble yourself and become coachable, right?
Gotcha.
Everybody knows everything and has nothing. 99% of people will have an excuse for their lack of success and an excuse for other people's success. And they're unable to grow in that state. Your mind's like a parachute. It's not going to work unless it's opened. You have to understand that if you knew what we knew, right? If you did what we do, you'd have what we have. You know, I tell my guys all the time, if you see what I saw and feel the way I felt, we'll make millions of dollars together. And they don't get it.
It's a bar.
Right?
He's not an asshole either, guys. That's real. That's just real. It's just being honest with you.
Yeah. Not many people.
You have to definitely put the work in.
Yeah. Not many people are that honest to your face. And some people get offended.
They lack accountability. He's saying
I do feel like I bring out a lot of people's insecurities. And I won't apologize for that, right? If it's the right time in your life for growth, for accountability, for letting go of the past so you can grow, and just going for it, I'm there. And I'll be belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, in the trenches. You know, I pick up the phone for my guys at 11 p.m., right? Like, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Once you start caring about yourself, once you start investing in yourself, once you start putting in the work, well, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
I love that. I see you have a lot of photos with a violin. Is that your form of meditation?
So cigars is probably my easiest form of meditation. It's definitely a spiritual thing for me. And contrary to popular belief, guys, it's hand-rolled tobacco. The cigars I smoke are dinosaur bones. You cannot buy them. They come out of $20,000 humidors and above.
Whoa.
And you're not inhaling anything. You're just doing it for the pungent taste. It's like the shamans back in the day. And I highly recommend you toss out the hookah or the vape pen or whatever it is that you do.
Terrible.
And you find yourself a nice cigar. It is an acquired taste. My first cigar was with my grandma when I was 8 years old.
Whoa, that's early.
Yeah, I started early.
Is that normal in France?
I think
not
so.
necessarily normal, but it's not uncommon.
Okay.
It's not frowned upon.
In the States, that'd be like child abuse.
Oh, right. You would literally
Different-
be on Channel 9
culture
News.
for sure.
Yeah.
But a cigar lounge, guys, is where you're going to meet successful entrepreneurs that you actually want to associate with. The first billionaire I ever spoke to was in Lima, Peru, and it was over a cigar. There's men out there that have everything from 30 cars in their garage to just an insane real estate portfolio, and you can actually make a friend with a $30 stick.
So what's the strategy? Say I pull up to a cigar lounge. I'm not a smoker, but if it means good networking, I'm interested now. So what's your strategy when you go to a cigar lounge?
So somebody who would be starting out, find yourself a light cigar, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, Oliva has a great $11 stick. That's how I started in my late 20s. And I really didn't like it. I didn't like the smell of the smoke. But I knew that my life is going to be a direct reflection of my network. You know, your network is your net worth. I knew that for things to stop, like for things to change, I had to change.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to become more.
Absolutely.
And to have more access. You know, my parents are little naturopathic doctors in Portland, Oregon. They make $150,000 a year. And my whole life they've told me, Edmund, life's not that easy. Edmund, life doesn't work that way. I grew up maybe in a $350,000 home in Portland, Oregon. And I remember saying one day I'll live in a $2 million home. And, you know, they lectured me because they didn't think I liked the house we lived in. So to go back, you start out with an affordable stick, a light stick, and maybe only smoke a quarter of it or half of it, right, if it's going to make you sick. But while you're smoking, there's going to be, you're going to start up a conversation with someone. And to me, you know, 99% of people like to learn from their own experience. They know everything and they have nothing. And whatever you tell them, they're just going to do the opposite. And if you can get to a point to where you have a desire to learn from other people's experiences, you know, from your elders, now that's wisdom. So for me, I might be doing a lot of talking right now, But when I've got somebody 10 years my senior and above around me
listening.
that's documented,
You're listening.
man, I just soak it in. I
Lock
take
it in.
notes.
Yeah.
I'll even pull out my phone and
Yeah.
write some of the philosophies or some of the quotes. To me, your life
Right.
is a direct reflection of the philosophies you identify with and live by. You know, your
Absolutely.
life, your perspective makes you or breaks you. Your viewpoint makes you or kills you. And my perspective and my viewpoint is way different than the one of 99% of people in the world.
I love that, man. That's powerful.
Yeah, I like that thinking. That's how you're supposed to think. I mean, especially when you want to go after it, you have to associate with those that go after it, has went after it, and speak from experience, not just from like what they see. You know, there's a lot of scammers out there from a knowledge standpoint. You know, but the thing about scammers is that they're just better marketers. So you gotta, that's their thing. You
And
know, they know.
Can I speak on scammers really quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, if you've been scammed out there before, you know, if you have a story, like everyone has a story, okay? And nobody gives a fuck. If you're talking about your past, you're not doing well in the present. And I'll tell you guys, I'm not the smartest kid in the room, and the amount of times that I've been scammed and taken advantage of and screwed over in my 20s and even in my 30s as a millionaire is asinine. It's embarrassing, and that's okay, guys. Failing forward is where it's at. Okay, success is found when no one's watching. Success is not luck. Success is nothing other than the activities that you do on a daily basis that will amount and compound to something great if you don't quit 3 feet from gold. And 99% of people do what? They quit 3 feet from gold. Do not let that be you. Get back up, right? If it won't matter 5 years from now, don't spend more than 5 minutes dwelling on it. Scammers are all around us, and when they get you, smile, be like, damn, now I just learned a lesson. And most people are unwilling to take accountability and learn the lesson, so what happens? They repeat the mistake. The lesson keeps chasing them. So, you know, it's okay to get scammed. I'm sure I'll get scammed again in my life.
I've been scammed before out of a whole car.
All the time, man.
Tell
Wait,
'em.
what?
Yeah, I got scammed out of a whole fucking car.
I gotta hear this.
Yeah, actually, the car I had, I sold it, then gave this other guy the money because I was expecting a car to come out here because I was buying it. He was a broker.
Okay.
Shit never came.
And how did you give the person the money?
Just gave it to him cash. He was a guy that we knew. I was never expecting like for us to get scammed. I mean,
Damn.
yeah.
And he just ran off?
There's a lot of people in this city that you know that seem prominent and that
He had a
you
tow
know,
truck driver call me and everything. A
What?
fake tow truck driver.
That's a good scam, man.
Dude.
I would have fell for that one,
Oh
too.
my
great-
God.
a
It was
great-
crazy. It was crazy.
A great way to stop getting scammed, guys, and you could write this one down. Look at the numbers. People lie, numbers don't. Documentation beats conversation. I'm very blessed today to be, you know, partnered up with some of the wealthiest families in this city. And one of them is Scott Sibley. I don't know if you guys have heard the name.
No, I
But
remember.
he owns a company, and there isn't a single foreclosure in this city that doesn't go through his company, which is pretty powerful.
Right.
And what a great place to identify what's going on with someone, right? You look at the real estate, and you look at the state of the real estate.
Right.
Is it in foreclosure? Is it in bankruptcy? And so I'll share with you guys, there isn't a single situation in your life right now where numbers aren't involved. Numbers are everywhere, and if you look for the numbers and if you ask for the numbers, that will help you avoid a lot of headache and turmoil and scammers.
I love that. Have you had any battles with mental health, anxiety, depression along the way?
100%. I have a pretty traumatic past in France. And in 2012, I was selling coffee all over South America through the network marketing model. And I devoted my whole freaking life to it for 2.5 years. I was speaking on stage in front of the thousands in Spanish, and I was living in Peru and Colombia and Costa Rica and Colombia, and I had a business in the States as well. And I built it to that $1 million a year mark. Like I was supposed to be making over $80,000 a month from the comp plan.
Right.
And instead I was making 30. And then you can live off of 30, you know, especially as a kid. I don't know how you would do it today, but as a kid back then, 2012, I was okay. $7,500 a week.
Yeah.
And but you know, I had the S550. I had about 15K of it going out for sure.
Right.
And I was supposed to be making 80, and instead the company started going backwards, and my 30 went to 20 to 10, and I cracked. I lost it. I found myself playing my violin outside 7-Eleven in San Bernardino County.
Whoa.
I ended up getting beat up by 3 cops.
Jeez.
I told them I was gonna burn down their, police station and find their families if anything happened to my violin. I have a 1710 Go Friller.
Is that like an expensive violin or something?
It's older than the Declaration of the United States.
Damn.
Whoa.
When my grandfather passed away, he gave up a lot of his estate so that I could have a concert violin. I was 16 years old, and it was time to...
What? Wow, that's a big sacrifice.
Wow.
I mean, it was my family's dream was for me to be a concert violinist. I hated every single day of my life.
So how did you bounce back? Like, if you can give advice to someone who's like reached that low, like how do you bounce back from that? Like how do you like bounce back?
From what, being locked up and...
Yeah, just like, like mentally confined.
So the reason I lost it was nothing else than lack of sleep. So I've never done drugs. I don't do Adderall. I don't do Xanax. I feel guilty anytime I drink caffeine because I truly believe when you drink caffeine, you're robbing yourself of tomorrow for today, right? You're actually pulling from your adrenal glands and you're depleting them. And so I'll tell any young man out there, who believes that money doesn't sleep and who wants to put in the extra hours and who has a burning desire for success and who'll do whatever it takes to win. And I admire that. But just remember that you need your sleep. I had trained myself to suffice off of 4 hours of sleep a day, which is very dangerous. I don't recommend it. But I was definitely 20 hours on, 4 hours off. And once I crossed over that, and I did it because of failure and trying to save the company and stuff, I just completely lost it.
Wow.
And recently, in January 22nd, I resigned from the solar company I'm with because of something that happened, and it was complete heartbreak. And it's funny because in 2012 I lost it, and in 2023 I lost it again. Right?
Wow.
Now this time not as a 23-year-old kid who doesn't even make 30 grand a month. I lost it as a 34-year-old kid who's got the means. So I didn't end up in jail. I was able to PJ everywhere and go to the nicest resorts like the Pelican that's owned by...
So you was playing your violin on the PJ this time?
I've played my violin, I think, on like 20 different PJs in the last
That's sick, man.
month and a half, which has been very therapeutic. And yeah, guys, sleep is absolutely necessary, scientifically proven to be necessary. I don't trust the science. And I do believe you can train yourself to operate off of 4 hours, but you are going to deplete yourself and rob yourself of your health, and health is wealth. There's a lot of young parents out there that have kids, and the parents age a lot when the kids are born, and they are not able to sleep.
Wow.
So be mindful of that on your way up as you start working or building a business, to where even if you think you're crushing it and everything makes sense and you're on your way, you best get some sleep. One thing I did before getting on this podcast,
got some sleep.
Take a nap.
The night before, I wasn't able to sleep. I only got 1 hour. I was out working.
Jeez.
I had some guys that came into town from Miami that wanted to see me, and I was actually in bed at 1 a.m. because I wanted to get my 5 hours. And I got out of bed, got dressed, and went and saw them. But last night I was like, if I'm gonna make sense on this podcast,
Gotta get some sleep.
I've got to get some sleep. So last night I got 5.5 hours.
So you have any final words for the entrepreneurs out there watching you and the ones that look up to you, and any inspirational words you want to give, words of encouragement, or any final thoughts on them?
Let's talk. Let's rock. If you believe you're playing for it, you're playing for it. You can have anything you want in life, and it's in moments of decision that your destiny is determined. And if you can't change your environment, change your environment. I moved out from Portland, Oregon to California, where I had no friends, no distractions. And, you know, those 10 words to live by. If it is to be, it's up to me. You got to take accountability for your life. The climb of success, whether you want to look at a mountain or a ladder, it's such an easier thing to do, right? People stress out about bills. Stress for success, baby. I mean, truly, if you think about it right now, when you're just living the day-to-day, when every year's the same, you're living on a bunch of things that are not worthy of your time, energy, and purpose, right? When you choose to live a life of purpose, when you choose to live an intentional life, when you're fighting for your freedom, for your family's freedom, when you believe in what you're doing, when you're actually passionate about something, and when you go for it and you start growing, the more you grow, the more your income grows, and money is just a byproduct. The person you become, the people you meet, the relationships you acquire, the rooms that you are invited in. Like I showed up to one of your events and it was phenomenal.
Oh, which one?
There was you weren't able to make it. You had
the
some sort
first
of
one,
family emergency.
Yeah, the biggest.
But you know, there's like-minded people in there. You know, birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah,
People, you know, become who they hang around. Right now, your circle, if they smoke weed and make 40 grand a year and, you know, watch Netflix and chill and go to festivals, well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. We're taking a PJ to a festival tomorrow. but you know, just make sure that you know that you're going to have to give up your previous life if you want a new one.
Gotcha.
I love that, man. Where can they find you, Wayne?
At The Creator on Instagram, THECR38TOR.
Sean Mike Kelly, that was a great episode. Digital Social Hour. I'll see you guys next week.
Peace.